Hi, everybody. Angel here, and I hope you're doing great. And today I'm super excited to speak with Sandra, and we'll get started very soon. And we'll be talking. Hi there, thanks for joining. We'll be talking with Sandra about her plant based vegan journey, some of the changes she experienced, the challenges, and marketing expertise, and the award she has received, her services for. Hi there.
Hi,
How are you? Awesome.
I'm doing
Let me just make
well.
sure my volume. Yeah. Okay. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, let me see if I can pump mine up as
Hi,
well.
everybody. Thanks for joining. Good to see you. Eve- Either
Hi.
live or on the replay. Thanks for joining. So, Sandra, thanks for taking the time to come on and chat with us. I know everybody's super busy, so I really appreciate you coming on and chatting today. Awesome.
I'm so glad to be
So
here.
just
Thanks
so
for the
everybody
invite.
knows, Sandra and I, well, we met during the Vegan Women's Summit. Right. So I was on the online version. I think you were too at that point. Uh-huh. And then I discovered that Sandra's also a part of Vegan Business Tribe. So shout out to Vegan Business Tribe because we are also a part of that awesome group as well. So here we go. So, Sandra, I have tons of questions for you. So, I think we should just get started. For anyone who joins, if you want to leave a question or comment down below for Sandra, we'll be happy to dip into those questions and comments as we go along. But while we wait for others to chime in, Sandra, I would love for you to please share with us to start how you began your plant-based vegan journey and how you ended up to where you are today, please.
Yes, well, my journey started at 2007 when I saw a screening of Earthlings, and that impacted me very deeply. It was screened at the University of British Columbia. That's where I went to school, and I saw a few athletes, big male athletes, walk out of the theater within 10 minutes, and I was like, really? Like they can't? They're not going to stick around and see this footage? And I'm like, I'm going to sit my ass down and figure out what this is all about. And at the Q&A after the screening, there was a woman from the Vancouver Humane Society there answering questions, and I won't ever forget, somebody from the audience asked, what is one thing we can do to help these animals? And she said, stop eating meat. And that just like, it was so simple, but it hit me really, yeah, it just hit me really hard. And I thought, okay, that's what I'm going to do. And so it took me a couple of years to fully cut meat out of my diet. And then for a good chunk of time, I was still technically pescatarian. I've never been a huge fan of seafood or eggs, but technically I was still eating some seafood. So what I did was I started learning how to cook either vegan or vegetarian during the week, so Monday through Friday. And then weekends, sometimes if I went out with my boyfriend, now husband, I might take the seafood option, but mostly it was like fish and chips. That was really like that was really like the appeal there. And then of course dairy. So yeah, that's kind of where it was. 2017, we went on our honeymoon to New York City, and I had the best seafood meal of my life at Iron Chef Morimoto's restaurant. And I told myself, it's not going to get any better than this. So, and I've always wanted to be vegan, so I'm going to leave on a high note. So that was it. That was my last seafood meal, 2017. And then from there, it was just dairy. So, um, and that's the hardest thing for people, some people I know, because pizza, ice cream,
It's
those are some of our
everywhere,
favorite
everywhere.
foods. Um, yeah. And so for me, it was, so I've, over these years, not related to my diet transitions, had this undiagnosed digestive condition that my health team has not been able to pinpoint. I have some ideas on what it might be, but some of the symptoms are acid reflux and sometimes vomiting, and it's always in the middle of the night. And so this happened to me again in the spring of 2018, and I was like, this is it. Like, I just need more answers. I went back to my naturopath, and she suggested I do a food sensitivity test. So this is something I'd never done before. Did the test and found out I was sensitive to dairy, among other things. So for 4 months in 2018, I cut dairy out of my diet. And then the idea is to reintroduce them back to see if any of these foods are triggering. But after that 4 months, I was like, well, I've always wanted to be vegan and I could do this for 4 months. So now I can do it forever. And that was it. So spring 2018 is the date to count from. So it's been pretty much 5 years
Oh my
now.
gosh, well, you're getting hearts there. You're getting some hearts coming up. Hi, everybody. Thanks so much for joining. Please put your questions and comments down below for Sandra, and she'll be happy to answer as we go along. Yeah, well, Sandra, some of what you said I can relate to. Now, I did not see the video that you're referring to until way, like when I was already calling myself vegan. But I can relate to being stuck in that, some people call it being stuck in the matrix or whatever of the whole vegetarian pescatarian world, because I was that for over 20 years before I went vegan. So, and dairy, well, let's just call it what it is, animal milks and all of that, and animal cheese, they're in everything. They're hiding. Eggs, chicken eggs are hiding in everything. So even if, like for myself, I knew I was lactose intolerant, at least that's a label we give ourselves. Now, I've since come to believe that it's not that we're lactose intolerant, it's just we're not supposed to be consuming that. And so, but, because I was lactose intolerant, I was actually trying to avoid dairy, but for health reasons, not because I knew anything about, the animal situation. So I can relate a lot to what you're saying, because I was stuck in that vegetarian, pescatarian world for so long. And so I'm so happy that you saw some changes as well, besides, the whole animal, of course, the animal component behind veganism. So were there any other changes that you experienced along the way other than the one you just shared with us, of course, which is huge, with the whole like digestive situation?
Not really. The biggest change I noticed when I first cut out meat was so that was big. And welcome that change, and a lot of people come to a plant-based diet because of weight loss, and that's fine if that's the reason. And then you mentioned we get stuck in this kind of like pescatarian phase, vegetarian, and it's like, oh, that's fine, like that's good enough. Over those years, that's when I started consuming the bulk of what I call my resource list. So all of the other documentaries, What the Health, Cowspiracy, these are so impactful. And then books too, the China Study, Eating Animals. And so that really added to my arsenal and always kept veganism as my North Star, as this is the lifestyle I want to someday achieve, even though I never put a timeline on it. And so and so I just share that because I've amassed this resource list for anybody on my website and check it out, because they helped me so much to stay on that target and have to do it. It won't take you 11 years like it took for me. Like, we have so great alternatives out there now. And so once you start learning how to cook a plant-based, if you want to do this, it won't have to take
no, I know. And I can relate, because either it's lack of information, lack of inspiration, lack of something, so I can totally relate. Now, you've kind of hit upon some of the challenges, because that was going to be my next question, like some of the challenges you've had along the way. So you kind of, touched on some of the challenges. Are there any other challenges that you wanted to share at this time that you encountered along the way?
No, not really. I think, and as you've said, it was just the lack of knowledge. Like, I didn't learn until I was already on the vegan diet after 2018 that most people of color are intolerant to dairy in some way. We're just not meant to consume it, and that's not out there in the mass media, because dairy has had such a stronghold on advertising and media for so long. And so now that this information is out there, like vegan or not, now that you know it, you have the data, it's on you to use that for your own health and well-being, and then also, of course, share it with your family and friends. And so even though I can't say I've convinced anybody in my close circle to go fully vegan yet, I've gotten pretty close. I've got an acquaintance is almost there, still just eating some bee products, and she convinced her friend to follow her as well, which is awesome. And then some of my friends have actually started to cut seafood out, most animal products out. So even though they're not fully vegan, like they've started to just watch my journey and follow along, which has
That's
been really
beautiful.
cool.
And I can relate because it makes me so happy, you know, that I have some relatives who are plant forward. You know, they're not like what we call fully plant-based, but they're plant forward. They've seen benefits, so that motivates them and inspires them. You know, they observe me, they talk to me, you know. So I think we just need to, well, not just, but I think we need to continue to you know, shine our light, be an example. People are watching us even when we don't realize they're watching us. They're still watching us. So I think that's beautiful, you know, what you shared as well. Yeah, so
Thank you.
that takes me then to my next question, please. And that is, how did you become interested in marketing?
Yeah. I think it's something I've always been interested in, like reading and writing are some of my first skills that my mom taught me before my siblings and I even went to preschool. We were already reading books, and TV was a big part of our lives. And so just picking up on commercials and their jingles, like I still remember a lot of those old 80s jingles. And then of course, going out in the world, just seeing how stores present themselves, and then TV commercials. Yeah, it's just always been something I think I was interested in, although I didn't like pursue it in school. I would say, yeah, after graduating university is when I landed my first job in public relations. So I was an intern at a PR firm, and then became a contractor for that company. And that's really where I learned everything I know about public relations. And then I started my own. So after that, I ran my own PR agency for just over 10 years. And in 2018, coincidentally, same year that I went vegan. It was kind of just trying to figure out what career path I was going next. And then that's when, at the end of 2019, I sat down to meditate, and that this booming intuitive voice came to me and said, "You're vegan and you will always be writing. So put those two things together and go." And let's try this out. So that's how this business that I run now is a
Incredible. I love that because I'm digging in meditation too. So I'm so glad you got that download, as they say. So then tell us, please, why do you call yourself the content doctor?
Yeah, so that's an interesting thing too. So I originally launched as the vegan copywriter in 2020, and was really, really lucky to land my first few clients just from networking and telling everybody I knew, hey, I'm starting a new business. Who do you know who runs a cruelty-free business that needs some content help? And then it wasn't until a few years or a few months later, this is right around the time the pandemic hit, I did a consulting session with a marketing colleague of mine. She was like, hey, I'm offering, just these free 20-minute sessions, just chat with me about your business. And and we talked about how that word vegan could still be like off-putting to those folks who are not aware of what veganism is, or just kind of don't want to touch it. And so she was like, you might want to think about something more inclusive. And also a client from my previous business, my previous PR business, came back to me and said, hey, I see what you're doing, but do I need to be vegan to work with you? And that, again, that kind of reinforced that idea that I may be putting out this image that I only work with vegans, and that's not true. The business does not need to be only owned by someone vegan or your staff don't need to be vegan, so long as the business itself is not involving animals, cruelty to people or the planet in to a lesser extent. So yeah, so that's why I switched over to something a little bit more inclusive, the Content Doctor. It explains sort of what I do. I help folks with their content. But when you land on my website, or even a lot of my social media platforms, you'll see, that I'm vegan and that I will only work with cruelty-free businesses. And so hopefully yeah, initially the Content Doctor will pull people in, but then once you arrive at my website, you'll see the types of clients.
But well, first of all, I can totally relate to that word vegan. There is a stigma. It's a little bit, yeah, it does trigger a lot of people to become defensive. And so I know we kind of wobble and waffle between plant-based and we have all these new ones now, plant rich and plant exclusive, and all of that, right? So I can definitely relate to the word vegan. That can cause a little bit of anxiety for some people, but I want to applaud you for really sticking to your your ethics, your philosophy, and even if you're not like broadcasting that word out, because I think that was a very good move. So I applaud you for picking up on those cues. Now, I have seen that you have won some awards. Can you tell us a little bit, please, about some of the awards that you've won?
Thank you. So I'll talk about the ones. So Lux Life magazine is a magazine in the UK. They invited me to submit, to basically nominate myself last year for, they host these global vegan awards, submit myself for, I guess it was best vegan cruelty-free communications professional. I submitted, and then at the end of the year, they said best communications, vegan communications pro in Canada. So all of the country, that's very that's quite an honor. So there's that in 2022, and then I also submitted my book, Vegan Marketing Success Stories, which I published in November last year, to the Vegan Choice Awards, and and it was honored by them in January. So really proud of that. It's vegan propaganda, and Maya Cohen Rowan's trilogy. So just really amazing vegan books, and I'm super honored.
Yeah, well, congratulations. That's awesome, because I think that that just adds some weight to what you're doing, and some I'm not saying that you need a stamp of approval or any kind of validity, but I think in the eyes of the general public, I think that really adds some leverage to what you're doing, and to kind of elevate your visibility and what you're doing. So big congratulations for all of that, for sure. Now I do want to ask you then about your books, and I also want to ask you about the services that you provide, just in general, through your whole portfolio of offerings for authors and whomever you collaborate with.
All right, so my first book is The Only Public Relations Guide You'll Ever Need. That's what it looks like. This I published in 2019, and it's only on Amazon. You can get the ebook from me on my website. So that's the first book. I didn't make a huge splash of it because I had already closed my PR business, so that's why you may not have heard of it. And then, as I mentioned, my second book is Vegan Marketing Success Stories. This is the world's first vegan marketing book, and only the second book to really talk about the vegan business world after Katrina Fox's Vegan Ventures. So that's the second. It's available in all formats, so paperback, ebook, and audio as well. So you'll get all those links when you arrive on my site. And then in terms of my services, so how I started out was helping vegan businesses with their written content. So mostly website copy, blogs and articles, emails, some social media content. I don't do too much of that. And then because of the pandemic, I had more time on my hands, and I realized books are the longest piece of content one could work on. So, and I've always been fascinated about book publishing. As I mentioned, you know, reading and writing have been such a long time skill that I've carried since I was a child. And so I took courses in book editing and formatting. And so I started offering those services to authors. And now I have a whole suite of services for authors. So book coaching, I'm ghostwriting my first book right now, which I'm really loving. And I look forward to doing more of that kind of work, editing, formatting. And then if you need help with the launch portion of your book. So you've written this, you've spent some time writing a book, and now you have to market it. Like, that's more work, you know. It's almost, I always say it's even more work sometimes than the work that goes into writing the book. And so if you need help with, as I said, emails, blogs, social media copy that will help you market your book, I can help you with that. And then, yeah, I've since like expanded my business services as well. So I'm actually thinking of down the line, maybe a couple months from now, dropping the title, The Content Doctor, and just using my name. So yeah, so I'm not going to do that overnight, but that's some of the changes that I'm thinking of making to my brand and my website, and you'll see that maybe down the line.
That's fantastic. And again, congratulations, because you know, you're saying there's just two of you to actually even like touched and tapped into that topic of like marketing in the whole vegan world. So that's a huge, you know, accomplishment. So, you know, kudos to you on that as well. I saw recently that you published, I believe that you are contributing a blog to a certain you know, publication. And so that's, I think what's really cool about that is that you're showing that you're doing it and you can also help others do it. It's not like you're just doing it for yourself, but you're actually, you know, contributing to other platforms, you know, with your work. So I think that's really cool as well. Yeah. Now, let me ask you, now you mentioned some, you know, like in the future, you might be, you know, kind of transforming again. And transformation is you know, change is the only constant, you know. So, we're all evolving at some point, and you know, so that's very cool. Are there any other future offerings or projects or products or services that you want to mention at this time?
Yeah, as I said, yeah, one of my big goals this year was to get experience ghostwriting a book, and so coincidentally, one of my best friends was interested in creating a memoir, and so hopping weekly on Zoom calls for him to tell a story. And I'm, yeah, just really enjoying that process. I think we're about passing through that book now. I'm really looking forward to, yeah, once that book is published, then offering that, yeah, to other potential authors. And of course, I'd love to work with vegan authors. I'm open to now, but yeah, if you're vegan, most definitely you get your book out there. And then in terms of like sort of services, because of my public background and publishing this book and getting casts and
yes,
videos on a local TV show.
Sorry to jump in, but that was so exciting because all over, at least I'm mainly on Instagram, I guess, but all over Instagram, there were these clips of you on that TV show. And I was like, oh my gosh, I know her. So tell us a bit more about that, please.
Sure. Yeah, it all like really happened sort of by accident. So yeah, after publishing the book, I created a news release to support Veganuary, but I wanted business media to start getting interested in the notion of veganizing their business, because Veganuary, of course, is about like try to eat vegan for 1 month. But I was just thinking, like, how can we get more businesses involved? And so I just put out this news release encouraging more businesses to move more toward veganizing their business. And yeah, I had I suppose one of the producers of our local TV network, one of the local TV networks, on that release list. And so they invited me to come on the show to talk about Veganuary and how people can go more towards veganism. And so it wasn't the business angle that I was pitching, but of course you say yes. And I had my book, just sitting there on the table, for a little promo. So yeah, I mean, like things like this, like I wasn't expecting that to happen, but you just have to say yes to. And as a result of being on that show, a lot of company owners and people were asking me, how did you get on that show? And it's not rocket science. Like really all you need to do is have a media list prepared. So come up with a list of media in your area, a list of podcasts that may want to have you on as a guest. Have this list, and then when you're launching something new, whether it's a new product, a new service, a book, or you just have like some news that you want to share, you have knowledge that is pertinent to what's going on in the news today, that's where that list becomes helpful. And so even though I'm not helping companies pitch to the media anymore, I've started offering media list creation services. So I can help you get halfway there, create that list for you. And I've actually built a list of almost 300 contacts. So vegan, the global vegan media podcasters, content creators. So if you run a vegan business or you're vegan and yeah, you'd like this list, to help you get more out there and more seen in vegan media, please contact me. It's a free product with the purchase of either my online course or media list services. So yeah, I've sort of like been dabbling and expanding from offering 3 years ago. Yeah, kind of taking bits from my previous business and offering. And another thing that I've done is I was editing an online magazine for 2.5 years. That was clients, and I'd love to do more of that work. So if there's any companies out there who are starting an online magazine, an editor to it, that's something.
So tell us a bit about your course. You mentioned your online course. Can you tell us a little bit about that? Like what would people, what can people expect when they tap into that course?
Yeah, so it's not a course that I launched from my previous business, but it's always been sitting there up online. And so it takes you pretty much from A to Z how to run a publicity campaign. So first developing that list that I talked about, that's the key part, and developing relationships with those podcasters, the media. You can do that very easily with social media now and LinkedIn. And then how to pitch yourself. So writing a news release, you don't necessarily have to have a news release, but it makes the jobs of, let's say, print media and online media very easy when you have a news release ready. How to pitch yourself to podcasters, if you have a budget, how to work with content creators and influencers to share your products, send your products so they can share it with their networks, and then how to leverage the media coverage after it comes out. So once you've been on like a TV show, let's say, that's it, like that's not it. You don't just like walk out of the TV station and that's it. You only got that 4 minutes. Like, you've seen what I've done as I pulled the clip from online. I share that with my social networks. Like you always want to think about how much you can repurpose that piece of media after it's done. Because of course, many folks I know don't have cable TV anymore. They only have Netflix and all of these other streaming sites. And so of course, none of them saw it live. But when I shared it on my Instagram, like I got like more than 50 comments and hundreds of likes. And so it's really my top piece of content. And that's from a TV show, even though people don't really watch traditional TV anymore. And so yeah, it's just really interesting. And yeah, you can always think about how you can repurpose a piece of media, even if it's a
That was
traditional
very
piece.
smart, because I don't even know how many times I saw it. I just kept seeing it. I was like, oh yeah, right, she did that. My goodness. I mean, people are really like spreading, which is awesome. And I'm glad you mentioned the whole repurposing, because I have to be honest, I'm not very good at that. So I need to get better. Because I think a lot of times we just think, oh yeah, well, that's a one and done, yeah, I did that and now I can walk away from it. But like you're saying, no, you can leverage that, you can replicate it and multiply that into so many other areas. So thank you for telling us a bit more about that, because I think that's super duper important during these social media times and all of that. Now I have a question. How, like, if a person wants to write a book, but they're like, they don't really know, like, I don't know, like they just don't have the confidence to do it, or, they're just not sure, like, they have this idea or whatever, but they just don't really know, like, what to do next. Like, what would be their next step? So let's say they contact you, can you give us a little bit of insight into a little conversation you might have with them to kind of get them to the next level, to determine whether it's something that they want to pursue or not, please?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've never had that conversation with anyone before, but I can say, yeah, if you think you've got a story, you've lived an interesting life, or on the nonfiction side, if you have a lot of business knowledge that you can share, it's definitely possible to write a book for anyone nowadays, and self-publishing has made it possible for us to do this. So you no longer need to go to a traditional publisher and pitch the idea and have contracts. You can have complete creative control over that on your own. And so it's just a matter of, okay, do you write stories? If that's your jam, then fiction. I don't really work with fiction. That's not what I read. I read a lot of nonfiction. And so yeah, I'm really interested in the memoir genre. So that's where you're taking a piece of your life story and zooming in on that and sharing, yeah, kind of like the core of what that story is that you want to communicate to your reader. And 30,000 words is really all you need to publish a book. It sounds like a lot, but one page is about 400 words. So that you do the math. It gives you an idea of like how much you'd have to type to come up with 30,000 words. If you're not the type to type at a laptop, you can work with a ghostwriter like me, and you can just tell your story. Tools like Zoom make it so easy to record, and then from there we just clean up the text, to make it make it book worthy, right? And there you go, and you've got a manuscript. And so it's definitely possible for the average person to publish a book. I've got 2 under my belt now. So yeah, that's
good. I appreciate you going through that, because well, there's this expression I've heard, like some people say something like, everyone has like a book within them or a song within them, something along those lines. So thank you for kind of, for encouraging whomever's out there who might hear this, but like, yeah, I've just been thinking about this. Or they're the type of person who receives comments regularly like, yeah, you should write a book. So, it could go either way. The message could come from within or from someone else, or get a download like you did, during a meditation, for example. So thank you for mentioning that. I want to say hi to everybody who's joining either live or on the replay. We have a few more minutes left with Sandra. So please, if you have any questions or comments, please put them down below or put them in the comments when I post the replay. So Sandra, what are the best ways for people to contact you for information, collaboration, questions, comments, etc., please?
Everywhere with my name, Sandra Nomoto, social media, and then same thing for my website.
Fantastic. And so, Sandra, before I ask you to just kind of give us your final thoughts and wrap this up and put a bow on it for us, please, I want to thank you so much for taking the time. This has been really great to connect with you, like face to face, because all of our other I guess meetups were either, I don't know, like digital or in a group. Sorry?
I can only see a little thumbnail
Right,
of
right,
you
right. So,
on
in
Zoom.
these like, huge Zoom calls and so forth. So it's really nice to connect with you. And I want to ask you if you would just give us your final thoughts, please, to kind of wrap this up and put a bow on it for us, please.
Sure. Yeah, this has been so much fun, Angel. I enjoyed this time. I would say if you're interested in moving towards a vegan lifestyle, again, my resources are up on my List Love page on my website, moto.com. I've got all the documentaries, books, influencers that have helped me on my journey. And then, yeah, if you're a business owner or a marketer, needs help with the written content, find me on my website as well. You can also pick up my book. It's got tons of stories for vegan business owners and around the world. And then if you're an author, just thinking about, a book out there and need help with the process, you can reach me very easily.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Sandra. You got some hearts coming up there. So thank you everyone for the hearts and your energy there. Fantastic. So Sandra, thank you so much. I am going to post this to IGTV and stories, and then I'll message you after. All right. Thank you so much. Take good care. Bye-bye. Bye, everybody.